Welcome back to Bear Witness. The 2026 season is upon us as the scouting combine begins. So I'm going to build out the Bear Witness Chicago Bears draft board before getting into the show's first mock draft. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. Right, so I'm going to be using PFF for my draft board and my mock draft. Um, the beautiful thing about scouting and the draft process is that it's all subjective. Everybody has things that they prefer over other things. Some people will like physicality, others will like technicality, some will like the mental reading of the game, some won't weight that as important because it's something you can develop. So, the beautiful thing about this entire process, and it is going to be a process, it's going to be multiple mock drafts, it's going to be multiple big boards, and it's going to be changing constantly across the league and on the show. And essentially, I'm going to run through just a few things that sort of come into my head when I'm looking at players that I think would be a great fit for the Bears. And I've thrown this list together just based off of the top ranked prospects that we've got at the moment, and I've gone through the first 3 rounds of D linemen. If anybody was tuned in last week, you would have seen that the what I want in the first 2 picks certainly is D lineman, edge, or interior. I don't really care which one, although I do have a slight preference, which I'll get into in a bit. Um, but essentially, what I like from players is I like certainly in the trenches. I like size, I like strength, I like height, and I like I like consistent previous performance. So if a player has one really good year, but you look at their other couple of years that they've been in college or 3 or 4, and you're looking like, well, I don't know, like that for me is a bit of an alarm bell that maybe that last year's performance, maybe there was extenuating circumstances, like somebody maybe with an edge rusher, they were paired with another really good edge rusher that year. And so, for example, you've got where is he? You've got Akeem Mesidor here. So he was partnered with Ruben Bain last year at Miami, which is obviously a massive help when look at this grade, 92.5 on his PFF grade from last year. Now, if we go into Akeem Mesidor's performance from his previous years, so 2024, 75.5, 2023, 76.6. Now, I know PFF grade's not everything, but this is a significant jump from his previous 2 years. And if I'm looking at that now, this 2023 season, I'm not paying much notice of that because there's only 44 snaps. But certainly this from 2024, where he was at 75.5, and then this year he's at 92.5. To me, that's alarm bells that, look, he's 24, nearly 25, and he's had one breakout year alongside one of the top edge rushers in the draft, probably going to be the first edge rusher off the board. To me, there's alarm bells there where I'm thinking, I don't know if I want to be drafting this guy high. Like he's ranked 19th on PFF's rankings. I think that's a bit high because he was paired with somebody who's going to come in and make an instant impact in the NFL. You would think in Ruben Bain. So that's just like a little breakdown into the kind of things that I'm going to be doing and looking at. Not all of them are going to be shown because there's a lot of them in-depth analysis, and I don't want these videos to be hours and on hours and hours. But essentially, I'm going to have a bit of a look through these players that I've picked out and just reorder them a bit. So certainly, like Cassius Howe, for example, he's number one on the board at the moment. I I've been doing these drafts for about a month, and Cassius Howe was somebody that I was really, really high on. Certainly when I started, because he was projected to go late second, where the Bears could pick him up in the second round, and I would really like that. His pass rush ability is crazy. Um, I don't love him at this value where he's at 17 PFF rank. Um, I just don't love him at that value. I think I look at like Keldrick Folk here. He's somebody that I think is going to go before the Bears get there. But look, it's one of those where he's on the board because I want to I want us to consider the move if he drops, or if he drops to like 21, 22, and you're thinking like maybe Philadelphia at 23 is going to think about picking him. Maybe we can try trading up to 22 if it doesn't give up too much. Um, Again, anybody who watched last week will know that I want to try and equip ourselves with a few extra picks. And if this appeal goes okay or goes well with the league, and we manage to get those third round picks for Ian Cunningham, all of a sudden we've got Arsenal to start moving up in the draft and start pinching some of these premium players that start to fall a little bit into our range. So that would be the reason why somebody like Keldrick Folk will be on there. I'm not obviously going to be evaluating everybody. Like somebody who's going to be obviously top 10, top 15. I'm not thinking, oh, let's do a deep dive on them, because the Bears just aren't going to be able to pick up somebody like that. But players that may fall out of their sort of mid first round range into the low 20s, I think we can start thinking about evaluating them and drafting those players. So Cassius Howell, I'm putting him below Keldrick Folk. I'm actually going to drop him a bit further. His height and weight doesn't fill me with confidence run stopping. I want to, if I'm going to draft an edge early, I want them to be able to do everything. And I just have doubts about Cassius Howell in the run stopping just because of his size and height. It's not. Look, his pass rush ability is unbelievable, and if he fell, as I was testing it like a month ago, if he fell to us in the second, I would love to add a player like him to the Bears, but it's just not. It's just not something that I want to spend a premium resource on in a first round pick. So I'm actually going to drop him. I'm going to drop him a bit further. Um, these interior guys, Caleb Banks and Caden McDonald. So this 96 number concerns me, and getting further into the stats. So if I look at Caleb Banks here, if you go into his last, this is his season grades year on year. Obviously, availability is a question mark from this previous season, and that already screams alarm bells coming off of an injury. Don't love that. But the biggest concern I have with Caleb Banks by a mile, the Chicago Bears last season were ranked 31st in rushing defense. His missed tackle percentage, even from the year before, was 26.1, and the year before that, 11.8. That, I really don't love that. 11.8 you can sort of live with. 26.1, no. And then last year, I know he was injured, but the games that he did play, he was at 50%. Like, look, his pass rush from the interior is good. These numbers are good. 29 total pressures with 4 sacks and 4 QB hits is good. But what I'm looking at, and he's right here, Caden McDonald. I've put him here, but I think he deserves to be higher than Caleb Banks. The PFF rank for Caleb Banks, I'm really shocked by, because his PFF grade's not even that good. He's 2 years older than Caden McDonald. Caden McDonald's got a better PFF grade from last year. And if you go into his previous years, look at the growth he's shown year on year. 63.6, 72.3, 87.6. With his Caden McDonald's run defense, 92. Now his pass rush is not as good as Caleb Banks, 10 total pressures last year. But what the Bears need, absolutely need, is somebody who's going to stop the run. 4.3% was his missed tackle percentage last year. Love that. Love it. 92 PFF rank confirms that. And the progression shown year on year gives me real excitement that he's going to come in and learn from Dennis Allen and the coaching staff there. He will absorb the information that he's being given. So for me, he'll be 21 at the draft. He's a bit smaller. He's 6'3". He's 6'3", and Caleb Banks is 6'6". So, like, he obviously Caleb Banks got the height advantage, but the weight is very similar. And for me, I just think, look, he's at Ohio State. He's performing better. He's growing in terms of his ability and output, and he's younger. And I'm just looking at that thinking it's really a no-brainer for me that Caden McDonald would be the number one interior on this draft board. Bearing in mind, I think Keldrick Falk's going to be gone by the time it comes to us. Caden McDonald being in our range is really exciting, and for me, he's our number one prospect. By a big stretch, actually. When I was looking at some of these other options, so I've got Cassius Howe probably dropping. Zion Young, I think his draft stock's going to go up. I like Zion Young better than Cassius Howe at this moment. Zion Young, he'll be 22. He's 6'5", 262, which is really good for an edge. And he's actually pressuring really well. I look at Zion Young's stats here. Not only is his growth the same, sort of on the same path as Caden McDonald, which I really like. He's gone from, if you take the 3 seasons, his last 3 years, 64.7, 78, 84 in terms of overall defensive PFF ranking. That's really good. Not ranking, sorry, rating. Then you look at his pass rush. Last year, 81.6. Now, tackling, not great. Missed tackle percentage, 18.2. But this is somebody, so I toyed with this idea last week. This is somebody who's projected to be going in the early second. Early second might be a bit of a reach for us, but if we get some of those third round picks, if we can trade up, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do any trades in the mock draft today. But if we trade up and like see him in that early, even if he drops into that like early to mid second, I would love us to go and get him, because if we could pair that with an interior lineman like Caden McDonald, all of a sudden that D line has been bolstered to the nth degree in what we could achieve in this draft. That would be at this moment, that would be my ideal two, Caden McDonald and Zion Young. I don't think it's going to fall that way in terms of the actual way that this mock draft is going to go, because Zion Young's going to end up going well before we get to the board in the second round. But eventually, when I start doing these draft trades, who knows what we're going to have on the table. So that's really something to consider. Let me get back to this board. So I actually like Zion Young more than Caleb Banks. Caleb Banks is going to end up dropping significantly, I think, in this. I would take Christian Miller over him. I haven't looked too much at Christian Miller just because he's sort of. I've got Caden McDonald, who is currently in our range. Christian Miller, he would be the consideration if Caden McDonald's gone, and I'm thinking maybe we just trade back a little bit. His rank is 37 for the draft. So I'm thinking, look, he's going to be available early second. If we trade back, pick up some extra assets, maybe we can then, if him and Zion Young are available, we can use some extra assets from trading back to get Christian Miller and Zion Young. So these are all the things that you can do depending on how the draft falls. But I like Kristen Miller. I like Kristen Miller more than Caleb Banks, actually. Now, the order that I've got on these guys as a whole from start to finish is obviously very fluid at this point. Um, I've considered a lot more the order of the first 6, 7, 8 people than I have the rest. So as soon as it gets past Derek Moore, I've been looking at Derek Moore just because he's at Michigan. Um, and his grade is obviously really high, but like apart from that, you get into some of these lower picks, and other than Akeem Mesidor and Romello Height, who obviously have extreme grades, but they're both older guys, like 24, nearly 25, and the same for Akeem Mesidor, which in my mind downgrades them significantly because you're taking years. You're taking years, like a whole rookie contract almost. Akeem Mesidor is older than Caden McDonald. So you're taking a whole rookie contract's worth of like time out of the like play that you're going to get for that first round pick. If you've got a first round pick and you use them for the next 15 years rather than using a player for the next 10 years, it's significant. It's a significant impact on the franchise. So for me, these older guys, I would only be considering them if they fell to probably the third round, which like Akeem Mesidor doesn't look like he will. Romello Height might, but we'd see. We'll have to see. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing for this mock draft is I'm just going to be taking the picks as they are at the moment. I'm going to do the first 2 rounds because that's what I've been focusing on D lineman, and I think the first 2 picks should be D lineman. Past that, I've already spoken about it on previous videos, but I'm thinking about linebacker or safety or something. But to be honest, I haven't gotten too much into exactly who I'm looking at for third round and beyond. So whilst I've looked at some of the D linemen for the third round, I haven't been considering what we're actually going to do in the third round, especially if likely we're going to take D lineman one in the first round and second. So for me, I'm just going to do the first 2 rounds. We'll see, obviously, in future videos, getting further into the draft, who the Bears will be able to pick up to strengthen with some of that late round depth. I'm going to leave these settings as they are in terms of randomness, draft for needs, and positional value, because this is what it comes as. And maybe if the drafts start becoming really unrealistic, I'll consider changing them, but for now I'm just going to leave them as they are. It's been working pretty well. There's been some rogue picks, obviously, but in the past month of doing these, it's been working pretty well so far. So I'm just going to leave it as it is, and yeah, let's get straight into it. I'll load this up. Okay, let's kick this off. We know how this first part of the draft is going to go anyway. Let's see if there's any interesting moves. Jeremiah Love to the Browns is interesting. Chiefs go cornerback. Oof. Okay, Cassius Howell's gone, and Caleb Banks is gone to the Bucks as well. Okay, let's start looking at some of these. Keldrick Folk goes 18 to Minnesota. That's dangerous in that defense. Jesus. Akeem Mesidor goes to the Cowboys. Cowboys taking Sonny Styles and Akeem Mesidor. I mean, it's good strength. They've added well there. Okay, so this is where we start getting into, do we trade up? I don't think we do. Okay, so Peter Woods being there is interesting. What I'm going to do, his average draft position is 15. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to have a look at these guys' stats quickly on PFF, and let's see a comparison. I'm pretty sure we're going to be going for Caden McDonald. I didn't even bother adding Peter Woods on there because I thought he was going to be going too early. So that's an interesting development. Let me have a look. Okay, so Caden McDonald is obviously Caden McDonald's coming third with his defensive ranking. That's to be expected. Peter Woods is 60. Let's get into their stats. So we've already looked at these already. This progression's really good from Caden McDonald. Peter Woods, 6'3", 310. So he's the same height, a little bit lighter. And his last season, playing more snaps, has come up worse in his PFF grades. What's his actual output been like? 14 pressures. So he was getting to the quarterback a bit more than Caleb McDonald. But yeah, Peter Wood's missed tackle percentage there, it doesn't, it hovers around that 20% mark here in all 3 of his years. And that's not really affected by his snap count at all. So I've got to say, like, Peter Wood's grade being, or average draft position being there at 15, I'm still going to look at taking Caden McDonald. I just like him better. I just like it better. I'm really happy with that pick. Caden McDonald for me is the best option that we have in our draft range, and if we can pick him up, I'm going to be really happy. Zion Young's gone off the board. That was to be expected. He went 36 to the Raiders. Okay. Yeah, Kristen Miller's gone. Okay. Well, we're looking at edge now. So we'll attack the draft board when it gets to our pick and see who's going to be left for us. Yeah, another one's gone. You go to Green Bay. No, Gabe Jackas went to Baltimore. It's Green Bay. Corleone's gone. Okay. Derek Moore's on the board. That's an interesting one. Out of Michigan. I think this could be the pick. There's not much by way of edge left. Joshua Josephs, LT Overton, Romello Height. So these guys are all on the board. Denny Sutton, by the way, I was having a little look at him. Do like him. He's projected to go in the 3rd, so we'll keep an eye on that. Because if he continues to be available in the 3rd, perhaps we go somewhere else other than edge here. But at the moment, I'm thinking it's probably just going to be Derek Moore. What have I got on my draft board? Moore, Josephs, Overton. So Moore and Joseph's close. Overton's down here, and then Romello Height's here. So let's have a look. Derek Moore, Joshua Josephs. You know what we'll do? We'll put up their full profiles. Go to let's go to edge and find. Okay, Josephs and Moore. Joshua Josephs comes in 11, and there's Derek Moore at 8. So they're both ranked pretty highly. This is a good pickup in the 2nd round, I've got to say. 32 total pressures for Josephs. Derek Moore, 41. Yeah, his pressure's higher, sacks higher for Moore as well, much higher. Moore had 11 sacks, 5 sacks for Josephs. What about missed tackles? Joseph's here at 23. Derek Moore. Yeah, see, Derek Moore's down at 10%. I like this. Good pressure. His overall grades, he's not dropping below 75. Joshua Josephs, he's got 50 down here. That's the killer for me. I'm gonna be looking at Derek Moore. I like that. I like that. All rounder. He can run, stop, and pass rush. Yeah, Derek Moore deserves to be here. Actually, if anything, like, he could end up moving up this board next week. I like that little in-depth look there. Okay, Derek Moore. He's going to be our 2nd pick. So there are two first round picks. We got Caden McDonald and Derek Moore. I'm pretty chuffed with that, actually. I think if it ends up being that at the moment, that looks really, really good. Let's see what PFF makes of those first 2 round picks. Okay, so they say draft Peter Woods. I mean, I just like Caleb McDonald better. Looking at those run stop numbers. But yeah, there you go. Derek Moore A minus, Caleb McDonald A. Okay, that's how the mock draft's gone down. So this is obviously going to be very fluid. There's the combine coming out. More tape is going to be watched, and with more information, more eyes, things are going to change a lot, as they always do every single year with the draft. But as of right now, let me know what you think. What changes you've made to the draft board that I've put together? Do you think, as I do, that we should be trying to move up in the second? And what alternative picks would you have made in those positions there? That's going to be everything for this week's edition of Bear Witness. As always, thank you for listening. Stay safe and bear witness.